worrying has never improved or increased the chances of a positive outcome of anything in your life. So it's useless. Hey y'all, it's Erica Laree. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time. Today we are going to jump into the topic of emotional intelligence. So I mentioned a couple of weeks ago on one of my posts that I wanted to kind of dabble into this topic a bit. I hear the phrase being thrown around a ton these days. So I kind of wanted to tap into what emotional intelligence means to me from my perspective. So if that's something you want to jump into, go ahead and keep watching. Okay, so first let's go ahead and tackle the actual definition of emotional intelligence. So it's the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. Digging in a little deeper with the entire concept of emotional intelligence, I came to the conclusion, now this is of course my own personal perception, my own personal opinion, but I came to the conclusion that it has a lot of similarities to the fruits of the Spirit. So if you are a believer, then you're probably familiar with the fruits of the Spirit. And some of those include long-suffering or patience, kindness, gentleness, humility, those types of things. Kindness, did I say kindness? So those types of things are the fruit of the Spirit. But a lot of the aspects of emotional intelligence, it basically just surrounds being a very stable, well-balanced human. My belief at this point is that if you are a believer and you are consistently seeking God's face, you will have supreme emotional intelligence as well. So I looked up a few signs or indicators that would show that you have a high level of emotional intelligence. So let's look at the first one. Getting along with or having an interest in others. So that one reminded me of love your brother as you love yourself. That's actually a commandment. Love your brother as you love yourself. So that means having an interest in your fellow man. The golden rule, treating people how you want to be treated. Now, it kind of gets a little sketchy if you're a person who doesn't actually love themselves. Then that could pose a problem, and that in turn is an indicator as to why you may treat other people poorly because you don't actually love yourself. But all things being equal, love your brother as you love yourself would kind of lay the groundwork to you treating people with respect, to you treating people with love, to you treating people with care and kindness and gentleness. Those are the things that God would have you to do anyway. And that if you are an individual who is emotionally intelligent, that is how you operate also. So let's look at number 2. Self-awareness of strengths and weaknesses. So having an awareness of self is really important on either side. If you know what your weaknesses are, you can work on them and start to improve and be more intentional about how you operate in regards to those weaknesses. So 2 Corinthians 12:9, which is actually one of my favorite verses in the Bible. My grace is sufficient. My power is made perfect in weakness. So we have weaknesses because none of us are perfect, not even close. We're human. So our weaknesses are opportunities for us to lean on God and his strength. It's an opportunity for our faith to be perfected through seeking God further and healing us of our weaknesses. So we continue to seek him. We continue to make adjustments to how we behave, make adjustments to how we think, make adjustments to how we talk. Just everything it should be growing and progressing if you are a believer. Again, everything that I'm saying is based on if you are actually a believer. If you're not, then this likely would not apply. But the emotional intelligence piece may be something that would still apply to you. But this is my whole point. It kind of ties in together. If you are one who diligently seeks God, then you will find that you are growing in the direction of having better or more polished emotional intelligence. But allowing God to work on you and mold you like a lump of clay, then you begin to, those weaknesses begin to soften in a way that you'll never be perfect on this earth. It's just not going to happen. We'll always be human, but you will grow further to where those weekends will be softer and softer and softer the more that you lean on him. His strength and his grace covers a multitude of sins, weaknesses, everything. It just covers everything with the blood of Jesus. It's all love. Next, operating with integrity is the third sign of emotional intelligence. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will always be found out. So that's kind of an extension of the golden rule, treating people how you want to be treated. Operate with integrity. Operate in such a way that is not underhanded or deceitful or devious. Being honest, being transparent, being compassionate. All of those things are ways that can lead you toward a path of integrity. Anything crooked is always going to come to light, whether it's sooner or later, it's always going to come to light. And some people believe in karma. In the Bible, it's just simply reaping what you sow. There's always going to be a harvest, and you are pretty much in control of what your harvest will actually reap. Were you inconsiderate? Were you a liar? Were you a thief? All of those types of things are things you want to think about and how you operate. And that is going to, in turn, give you some kind of indication of what type of harvest you may be reaping down the line. Number 4, self-awareness of feelings. So the biggest thing to remember if you are a believer or someone shooting toward emotional intelligence is to remember that feelings are fleeting. Feelings can't be trusted. That's really what it comes down to. You can't make decisions based on feelings, because you can't trust them. You can feel one thing in one moment and feel completely different the next day. So if you make a decision, an important decision or a long-term decision based on the feelings that you had in that moment yesterday, and then you wake up today and you possibly feel completely different, now a decision is made that's possibly irreversible. And so this is how we tend to get ourselves in situations in life where we regret this and we regret that. And then it just leads to a domino effect of unhappiness or bitterness or resentment because of decisions that we might have made when we were in our feelings. It's very important to make sure that you are allowing God into the process of any decision making that you have to do. Calling on the name of the Lord and asking Him to guide you in the way that you should go. And then we're able to tap into the reality of the direction that we should be going, and not just the feeling or the emotion of where we are currently. Stay away from emotions. They'll get you into a lot of trouble. They are dangerous. Dangerous, 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 dangerous. We have to make sure that we are not abandoning our logic. Like the Lord, the feelings have a purpose. That's why God made us in the way where we experience feelings. Feelings are not always bad. They just can't be trusted. You have to use your brain too. That's why He gave us a brain. He gave us a mind to be able to use to make decisions. Feelings are more of, like the butterflies when you're in love, or the joy you receive watching your child, hit a milestone or an accomplishment. Feelings are a part of what makes life worth living. Those moments, those joys, those high points, and even the low points that teach you lessons and things like that. So feelings are here for a reason. I just mean, as far as for the purpose of like making life decisions, feelings are dangerous. So just always make sure you keep that in perspective. When you're feeling something, make sure that you allow yourself to sit with your feelings for a period of time before you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or make the wrong decision. Number 5, present focused. So is it in Luke? Jesus said, will worrying add an additional day to your life? The answer, of course, is no. So that's basically a point just to show that what is truly the purpose of worrying. If it's not going to add a day to your life, and if you do it enough, it's probably subtracting days from your life, from the stress. If worrying is not going to add a day to your life, why do we spend so much time and expend so much energy in worrying? Worrying itself is rooted in the uncertainty about the future. But we should be placing our future in the Lord's hand. And that's any future. 20 years down the line, 5 months down the line, 5 minutes down the line is all the future. So if we are worrying and we are consumed with picking apart all of the possibilities of what could happen in the future, like that's just, we are tearing ourselves apart internally by worrying. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, and it's unproductive. You have never changed anything in your life for the better. I can probably guarantee this. You have never changed anything in your life for the better by worrying. You may have implemented some action. Preparation is important. Preparation is a good thing. But worrying is something separate. Worrying has never improved or increased the chances of a positive outcome of anything in your life. So it's useless. Worrying is useless. And that's basically what Jesus is trying to explain in that passage. Worrying is not going to help you. So just leave it with me. Leave it with the Lord. Leave it with the Father, and it'll work out the way it's supposed to, because his will is perfect. So trust his will. You'll have no reason to worry. It's oftentimes a lot easier said than done, but if you work on it and do it consistently, it gets easier and easier. Number 6, self-motivated. So being self-motivated in my mind with being a believer is basically seeking and carrying out God's purpose for your life. So God has a purpose for all of us. And sometimes it takes time to understand and determine exactly what that is for your life. Some people learn what their purpose is very early in life, and some people understand their purpose later. It is my prayer that all of you listening will be able to, at some point in your life, if you have not already, find or understand what God's purpose is for your life. I personally am not completely sure that I've tapped into my actual purpose for my life, God's will for my life. And so I know a lot of things that I have been through or have done within my life. I know that they were God ordained and that he has used me for work within my life, which I'm so grateful always to be a vessel for God. But I'm not sure that I have totally tapped into my ultimate purpose on this earth. And so I am continuing to seek and listen for God, for when he's ready to download that into my spirit, so that I know exactly what purpose I should be pursuing. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll let y'all know if I find out what it is. And lastly, well-placed boundaries is the last of the 7 signs that were listed as indicators that you have a high emotional intelligence. Well-placed boundaries. 1 Corinthians 15:33, and there's a few places in the Bible that talk about this. The Bible is very repetitive. There are most things that you find in the Bible, it's probably mentioned somewhere else in the Bible at least once. But 1 Corinthians 15:33 is bad company corrupts good character. I know for a fact that's somewhere in Psalms too. I want to say Psalms 1, but don't quote me. But bad company corrupts good manners or good character. So birds of a feather flock together. Like a lot of these sayings that you've heard throughout your life is like different interpretations of things you find in the Bible, of just how to operate and to be a decent human, honestly. The company you keep, contrary to popular belief, because a lot of people don't believe this to be the case. They're like, oh, I got my own mind. I don't follow the crowd. I don't do, like a lot of people think that they are, that strong, but we are all just humans. We are all human. We are affected by certain things. And one of those things is, if you are around something long enough, it starts to rub off. And then the longer you are around that thing, the harder it is to break away. and the more work and the more energy and the more effort it takes to be able to detox from that situation or from that person or from that thing. So the first step, I guess, is acknowledging the fact that this is true. Bad company corrupts good manners. So it's important to surround yourself with what you aspire to be. I know that wealthy people say that all the time. You see it in books all the time, books that you may read from people who are wealthy. I remember Robert Kiyosaki had that in his book. Is that Think and Grow Rich? Is that what I'm thinking of? Or is it Rich Dad, Poor Dad? It might be Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But those types of things are in the books of the wealthy all the time. Like, surround yourself with what you aspire to be. Act in such a way that you are already there. So if you aspire to be a better person, if you aspire to be a smarter person, if you aspire to be like anything that you aspire to be, you should be surrounding yourself with that so it can foster your becoming that. If you spend your time with negative people who don't want much for themselves, who have a tendency to be jealous or have a tendency to be needy or dependent. Not saying that needy or dependent people are bad people. I don't mean that at all. But these are traits that when we have them, we want to work on them so that we can overcome them. Because we should really only be dependent on God. God is the only entity that we should be dependent on. We shouldn't be depending too much on things. We shouldn't be dependent too much on people. I mean, we're down here together on earth to live this life. So there are things that we use and things that we need to be able to, live this life. Like money. It's not bad to have money. It's not bad to use money. It's not bad to have a lot of money. It's money is not evil. It's the love of money that's evil. And if you're using it the wrong way, it develops into a problem. But you can have things and you can use things in this life, but being dependent on a person or a thing is where problems begin to arise, because we should always be depending on God, God's strength, God's grace, God's mercy, God's kindness, God's love, God's wisdom. We should be depending on all of those characteristics of the Lord. So that was a bit of a mouthful. I just wanted to kind of go through all of those points to sum it up all in all and say that I feel like emotional intelligence and being a believer and diligently seeking God, they mirror each other in many ways. And it basically just points to both being growing into a better person. And the more that you seek God, the better person you'll be. And then you'll start hitting all these other points like emotional intelligence. Everything else always falls into place the closer you become to God. And that's a definite. I've no doubt in my mind that that's 100% fact for everyone. But again, it would apply to believers. So if it doesn't apply to you and you've made it this far, I'm so glad that you watched. And I hope this will have an impact on your heart. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining in. If you did make it this far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join the crew, and give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment and let me know any thoughts or any feedback, or chime into what you are feeling on this topic. I would love to hear from you. But I will catch y'all in my next video. And until next time, that's all, folks.